Okay, I'm back. Hey guys, it's Rob, aka Memory Labs, and welcome to the compare and contrast build section of my Sivir video guide. Let me first start out by saying that I will never say that there's any one correct way to play any hero, because the truth of the matter is this game is set up to be so flexible and so customizable that you can be successful doing some pretty out there stuff. And I've seen crazy things work in the right situation in a good player's hands. So let's not ever just say that there's going to be one right answer here. Let's just talk about advantages and disadvantages of different builds. I think both of these builds that we're going to talk about today are both viable. But I'll tell you why I prefer mine over the other. Okay, so getting on to the core of this here, the two builds that I'm going to compare, or the build that I'm going to compare my build to, is based on a fantastic guide on Leadcraft. If you guys haven't checked it out, you really should. It's by Raw Power 405. It's it's the only premium guide for Sivir. It's a great guide. It's, like I said, it's premium. It's called Sivir, unfortunately underrated and underused. I completely agree. I used to play Sivir just like this, sans Manamune, because Manamune wasn't out back then, but I used to play Sivir in the way that he's describing here. So let's talk about it. He starts out with Chalice and Berserker Boots. That's pretty much standard. What he decides to go for his core survivability item is Aegis, and augments that with Starks. Whereas if you compare on mine, okay, so I go Warmogs first, and that's pretty much the end of my survivability. In his build, I kind of consider, okay, Starks. It's kind of a, it's a mid-range item. It's, it gives you lifesteal, and it has a portion of it that's hard to put, a hard value on, which is, of course, that it's an aura for your whole team. So it's hard to say, exactly quantify just how great this item is for her, because it's situational. In some cases where, you happen to be around a teammate that needs the lifesteal aura, it could be, your saving grace. In another scenario where you're around other people, but they just don't care about, you're around other people, but they just don't care about lifesteal because they're casters. If that's the case, then, the money that you invest in that aura might not be, worthwhile. So, and I mean, it is offensive in that it gives attack speed, which she definitely needs. So that's the two attack speed things covered. Whereas I'm using Madred at the end, sort of, to augment attack speed. So he's going to get a little more attack speed earlier on than me. But he sacrifices damage, and although the Aegis is cheaper to farm than my Warmogs here at 3,000, his Starks is, he needs both of these to stay alive. This is actually more like 4,500 worth of items here, just invested in survivability, because this is your Starks keeps you alive. That's your he uses that early on to get life. Whereas I don't have any lifesteal over here until I'm dealing with at the almost 30 minutes plus into the game, where it's just tacked on and it's not a focus. If you're getting Starks early on, you're depending on that lifesteal to keep you alive in battle, which means that you have to stay auto-attacking to gain the benefits of that lifesteal. So that's another thing to consider too, that he's using two items for it's mostly defensive. There's some offensive components to it. I completely understand that. But you've got two essentially survivability items here, and they're not always going to work. Starks is great, but it doesn't always provide its benefits. It requires you to be auto-attacking. It requires you to be around other heroes that can benefit from the aura. Obviously, the armor pen is great. I'll definitely not argue with that. Okay, so let's take a look at just some numbers. All right, we've got here health. 2272 versus 3290. So over 1,000 more health with my build. So I would say right away you're looking at a heck of a lot more survivability. Okay, health regen per one, no question. The Warmogs is going to give you an advantage there. All right, so there's your physical damage health. That's 10,000. That's your effective hit points. That means if somebody's attacking you and all they're doing is melee damage, that's how much damage they would need to do from auto-attacking melee hits to kill you. The same thing is true for the magic hit points. So either way, I'm basically way more effective health-wise. Not only do I have a ton more hit points, the hit points last longer. Mana, we're looking at identical, but he goes for more mana regen. Okay, it's hard to quantify that, but okay, so there's a pro and a con. If you need more mana regen, this side might be, the premium guy build might be what you need. Okay, I personally find that much mana regen to be too much, but the only thing he's really getting more is in the runes. Like I recommended, we'll talk about the runes separately. All right, moving on here. Attack speed is identical. Great, that's cool, easy to compare. If you'll notice, I've got 336 versus 287. Now, the difference here is really going to be in my runes. I use the attack damage over the attack damage per level runes on my quints, reds, and yellows, and my blues are straight mana regen per level. So all of that that bonus there is an attack damage. But here is another critical portion. You've got armor penetration. I don't have any, whereas he's got 15. He's getting that from his room. So he's trading in that late game BF sword for an early game and / all game bonus in the armor penetration. Okay, so there's another difference. Maybe that makes enough a difference to you for you want to go this way. That's fine. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answers here. I'm just looking at the numbers so that we can get a clear picture. Okay, so let's talk about our resistances. Right away you can see that I've got a lot more armor. Magic resist, although it's lower by 41, keep in mind the important stat here is this number, magical damage health. That means that's how much health, how much damage they have to deal to you to kill you in magic damage. So even though I have lower magic resistance, I have so many more hit points that I still have essentially more magic defense overall than the other build. So that you keep that in mind when you're making these kinds of decisions and builds. I'm not going to say one thing's right or wrong. The lifesteal bonus, clearly you've got 45% over here, and this is the difference in having Starks over as just the late game bloodthirster for me, or mid to late game. So this is but keep in mind this is his survivability. He trades in 1,000 hit points essentially and a bunch of armor so that he can auto attack and stay alive early on in the game, hopefully. So if you're the type of person where you find yourself constantly able to sustain life or just constantly auto attack, you find yourself in a lot of these situations where you're going to be auto-attacking and you can actually survive through this, then you're going to go for that. I don't find many of those situations. Most fights in my mind are like, you unload your DPS, you skirmish, you're feeding in your boom or your ricochet blades as much as possible. But I sitting there auto-attacking, just one-on-one type hero where you live because you were able to heal yourself through lifesteal. I don't find a lot of those situations. So if you're a gamer that does, go for the lifesteal. If you're a gamer that doesn't, maybe think about this build. And the rest is stats-wise is sort of elementary. The other thing to talk about is, of course, with the Aegis, even though it's inferior to the Warmogs, and a lot cheaper, of course, but inferior to the Warmogs in defenses mostly, it does provide that really nice bonus for the team. So, this is a viable build. I used to build her just like this when I was first starting out. It's not bad to think about helping out the team. Anybody can get a bunch of aura items and call themselves a support hero. I don't think that was actually what the intention was with Sivir. I think her intention was to be a really strong lane pusher that was difficult to kill, where she could, she might not do incredible one-on-one burst damage, but she does solid damage and has a whole nother sub-game going on where she's becomes a distraction for the enemy team. So, like I said, there's many different ways to build her. You pick which one works for you and your team. Maybe your team is desperate for magic resistance and nobody else can get an Aegis. Then sure, yeah, you fill in the gaps where you need it. But as we see here, in my mind, it's pretty clear. If you go with my build, you get 1,000 more hit points, over a BF sword, more damage, like 40, 50 more damage, whatever. So you're getting more damage, more hit points. You attack the same. You have more defense to magic. You have with the magic defenses, like we talked about, and a lot more hit points and physical damage defenses. 10,000 versus 6,000. That's almost double, kind of. And if you were to replace Manamune with if you replace Chalice with Manamune, which I hear a lot of people asking for, we can take a look at that and see what it really does for you. The Manamune Starks combo is kind of nice, but your damage is still a lot lower. Even fully charged up, you've got way lower hit points. It doesn't really make that much of a difference in my mind. You still end up with less damage and about the same mana of regen. So, the same as before. So, with the Chalice. So it's up to you. You get mana. See, what I do is, if it comes to the end of the game, I've got all of this stuff. I'll just dump the Chalice. It only costs 890. You can just get rid of it, get half your money back, whatever it is anyway, and put anything you want. Manamune costs 2,100 gold. That's you don't necessarily want to just dump that. So this is it's a great item. You get it right away, and it's a throwaway at the end. It's like what more could you really ask for in an item? It's cheap. It's really effective. Manamune is really overpriced. It's easy to farm, sure, but I think it's overpriced for what you get. So there's a compare and contrast of two, and feel free to keep the comments coming. You can ask any questions you want, and I'll try to address them. Thanks.